Good evening. Today we will learn about the difference between industrial psychology and organizational psychology. As we begin our first unit, which is Introduction to Industrial Psychology and HRM, it is quite important that we understand the differences between industrial psychology and organizational psychology, and further, we'll also look at how HRM comes into the picture. Now, industrial psychology is essentially the managerial perspective of organizational efficiency. That is to say, that an industrial psychologist will look at human resources from a management perspective or a management point of view. That is to say, that just imagine what all things will a management be interested in. They will be looking to hire talented workforce. They'll be looking to hire someone who is not tardy, somebody who is qualified enough to be part of their organization and such. So essentially, industrial psychology, what it does, or industrial psychologists, what they do is they focus on areas such as recruitment, talent acquisition. They focus on job analysis. They will work on developing job description and job specification, and they will be interested in looking at various performance management techniques, or they will be interested in areas such as compensation management. So all of these areas, which can be divided into, say, managerial and operative functions, all of these areas is what industrial, or we could say all of these areas are the scope of industrial psychology. Now, when it comes to organizational psychology, we are focusing more on the human resource perspective. We're focusing on the human component of the organization. That is to say, that an organizational psychologist will be interested in topics such as their motivation, their job satisfaction. He or she will be interested in the communication, the channel of communication, the type of communication that the workforce engages in. Such an organizational psychologist will also be interested in areas such as employee stress. He or she will be interested to know what causes employee stress, or what can be done to improve the efficiency of workforce. So these are some critical differences between industrial and organizational psychology. However, we need to consider that we cannot really separate industrial and organizational psychology. The two go hand in hand, right? Somebody who wants to give a holistic perspective of things to the management or to the human resources in that management or in that organization, it is crucial that they understand both the aspects. So that is where human resources management comes into play. Here we're not just looking at the managerial perspective or just the human perspective. We are sort of merging the two together, or we are bringing them together to understand or to manage the human resources in a more efficient manner. Yes, so we are not only looking at finding ways to recruit people, to recruit qualified personnel. We are also looking at ways to make sure that our employees are not stressed, that their working conditions are good, that they have the optimal working environment so that they can flourish in the organization, so that they can make the most of their progress in the organization. So yes, and another perhaps if we go back a little into time, we'll see that human resources management, or the entire concept of human resources, came into play when we saw the Hawthorne studies by Elton Mayo. And in his experiments, he realized how it's not just the working conditions that has an influence on somebody's productivity, but it is also the human relations that matter when it comes to increasing or improving somebody's perspective productivity. So you could say that from there on, of course, there's of course a long history until that point, but from there on, from Hawthorne studies onwards, there was of course a huge change in how we understand our workforce. So this is it for today's video. I hope you understood the difference between industrial psychology and organizational psychology and how human resources management comes into play. And also I hope that you understood a little history of how human resources became an important concept and why we study it today. Thank you so much.